Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast with your host, Wake Tech President, Dr. Scott Rawls.
Hello, I'm Scott Rawls, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. You know, Wake Tech, we build things, and we have architects, but our two gentlemen joining us today, they're some really important architects. They're the architects of care at Wake Tech. We're going to talk about care, our care centers and our care teams, and how Wake Tech is demonstrating its care and its support for all of our students at Wake Tech. So we're thrilled today to have joining us Michael Coleman, our Dean of Student Support, Davis Smith, our Dean of Academic Advising. And as we jump into care centers and care teams in a week when we're jumping into, this is the third full week of our academic year, so we've really jumped into a new year. It's an exciting year at Wake Tech, but before we jump into it, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us how you came to Wake Tech and how what you did before you were here. So Michael, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this platform. So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I had the opportunity to work at a couple of four-year institutions in Florida, Georgia, and New York, primarily in student activities, events, and college union work. At the same time, had an opportunity to work within the association as their president, and brought me back down to Florida, where I started working at community college there and fell in love with the community college and what it stood for. And then, had some really good luck and came here to Wake Tech to serve as the Dean of Student Support and serving the students and the community.
So we had some good luck as well that you found us. That was fortunate for us and our students.
Yeah.
Davis, tell us your story, your trip to Wake Tech.
Yes, sir. So I'm originally from Central North Carolina. I got my start in college life at Central Carolina Community College, and I was able to take some classes and build my confidence up about going to college and succeeding. I completed my undergrad at UNC Wilmington. While I was there, I got involved with new student orientation and admissions and that type of thing as a student. So I developed a real passion for working at a college. And I knew from my experience as a community college student that I really wanted to get back into that environment. So I had the opportunity to work at Sandhills Community College to start my career as an academic advisor and a success coach. So I got to see both worlds and experience both of those things. And as time passed, I got the opportunity to come here to Wake Tech back in 2021, right at the end of the pandemic. So I've enjoyed it ever since and enjoyed working with Mike and his team and my team. So
well, you guys have a great team, and we'll see through this podcast how it really comes together. But let's talk maybe a little bit about that, because care and caring for students is not new at Wake Tech, but care is a strategy, and the care teams and the care centers are part of our Reach and Rally strategy. And while we've been working on it a few years, I think this year we'll really start to see the flywheel turn. It's really kicking in this year. And so let's back up a little bit. And care means something. I always forget the acronym. But that's the great thing about the acronym is you don't have to remember what it is. You just have to remember when I need care, here's where I go, here's how it comes together. So talk a little bit about the evolution of care at Wake Tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So CARE stands for Connections, Advising, Resources, and Engagement. And again, you don't have to remember that. You just have to know, hey, care, right? If you need support, if you need resources, if you need to find your way, CARE can help you find that. And it's a really good partnership with both the CARE Center, advising with the CARE teams. And essentially, we try to form like an ecosystem around a student, right? So when they get here, they have that support. They have everything that they need to help navigate them from the start of Wake Tech to the end. So,
well, this is a big week in the evolution of care because we're here on our northern campus today, and this week we're opening our second physical care center as we build those out on the different campuses. So let's talk about it from the student support piece, what some in community college world call wraparound services, right. But there are about 9 different service areas that you can access all in one place, all through kind of a organized approach to care and support for students. So Michael, tell us a little bit what a care center is and what I can find if I'm a student.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the care center, the model, what we did was we wanted to make sure we have a foundation. And so we took the appreciative model from advising and sort of put that as the heart of the care center. So it's really looking at how we can learn more about a student, pull back some of those layers so we can know how we can best support a student. And so with that, we have our student success coaches. They provide success planning, tips and strategies of how to be successful at Wake Tech, time management, study skills. And what they do is they will work with you on an individual basis to learn, like, what are you good at? What are your strengths? What do you feel are some of the challenges? And then create essentially a roadmap for you for that semester that you can follow. And then they periodically will check in just to see, how are you doing? Do we need to change it? So it's very flexible. Then we have our wellness services, which provide short-term mental health counseling, both individual and group, for our students. We are also able to refer out if a student needs more support. We're also launching our student assistance program called We Care, and that is an opportunity to provide mental health counseling 24/7 for students. So when we're closed or when we're on break, students still have access to mental health counseling, but it also provides financial and legal consultation for the student, but also the immediate people in their household. So we're able to, provide that. We also have our Nest Food Pantry, which we're definitely excited about. Provides healthy food options for students that are facing food insecurity. We're also able to allow students to shop online. They can come in person and shop. And then for our students that are online, we can provide food cards for them. So we're meeting them where they are and making sure that they have access to that so they're able to get food for themselves, but also those that are in their household. We also have our technology assistance, which provides laptops for students. We're also able to refer them if they need internet hotspots. We also have our financial assistance, our emergency aid, which provides support for students that are in unforeseen circumstances so that if something is going to derail them from their education, we can support them with that. And then to complement that, we have our student money management, which provides financial literacy, budgeting, but also how to be fiscally responsible. We also have our transportation assistance, which we're able to work with the Green Trek program, so students can learn the Go Raleigh, the Go Wake system to get to campus, but also with our friends in the foundation, when gas prices spiked, we now have gas cards that we're able to provide for students so that they can get here, get back home. And then we also have a really great program, our Fostering Bright Futures program, which provides wraparound support for students that have been touched by the foster care system and making sure that they're successful. We also have our Pathways Male Mentorship Program, which supports students, our CCP students, males of color. So our dual enrollment students in high school, supporting them with wraparound support. So we have a lot going on.
That is a cornucopia of care right there.
We have a lot going on, and the most important thing is if a student doesn't know what they need or just have a challenge, we'll find that answer or we'll connect them to the person.
And is it fair to say that's kind of the big change for us, is that we always had elements of those different, but you had to kind of find the right door.
Absolutely.
And through the care center concept, both physical and virtual, there's one door to all of the care support. Is that a good description?
Yeah, absolutely. We had to pivot at a point, and we put probably about 80% of our resources online. What that allowed us to do
During COVID?
During COVID, yeah. We were able to meet students where they are, and now we see the benefit of keeping those because of the number of students that are online or just taking online classes, to making sure that, if you're out at the RTP campus, you know what, no problem. We can get resources, either physical or digital, to you. So we want to make sure that students know that they have a place, that they are welcomed, that they can find their connection to resources, but also to other places on campus. But also we have really strong partnerships with the city and the county that we're able to do referrals now So if we're not able to assist, we want to make sure we find
The right resource.
right. We want to make sure we find that resource because they're all, different challenges, but we want to make sure that we're able to support them to keep them on track.
Why is student support so important at a place like Wake Tech?
Well, it's important for retention. We want to make sure that as soon as you come in that door, you feel welcomed, you know where to go, you have that support where you feel if there is anything that is, a roadblock, you have a team that can support you with removing that. And then, even we want to celebrate your successes as well. So it's not just, hey, we want to, support you during your challenges. We want to cheer you on. With Davis's team, when they're advising, we have students that come back, and they're either got an A in their class or they're about to graduate. And we love seeing them come back and say, thank you so much for this support or this help. So that's what we really love to do, is really cheer them on and, support them on their way if they're going to a 4-year or they're going out into the workforce.
Now, before I turn to Davis, tell us a little bit. This is a big week because we celebrated the grand opening of our second physical care center on our northern campus as we move place to place here at Wake Tech. Tell us a little bit about this unique space we're celebrating this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. We have an amazing team that's working hard. We have a brand new care center here at Scott Northern Wake campus in Building B. In the student lounge area, that our success coaches, we have our student support specialists, which will connect students to outside resources. We have all of our support team here, and it's exciting. We have a brand new facility, and we're just so excited to welcome our students, and they'll know, like, hey, you can come downstairs and anything you need, we'll either provide or we'll find that answer for you.
Another big week here at Wake Tech.
It is.
Davis, let's talk a little bit about care teams. I think care teams and the whole advising approach is probably one of the most fundamental elements of our strategic plan. And like our student support, we've always cared for students. And with respect to advising, we've always had tremendous advisors, wonderful people here at Wake Tech. But the approach to advising, the structure in the organization, that's changing tremendously through the care team. So can you describe that evolution and where we are now with care teams?
Absolutely, that's right. So we know two things about advising and student success that are really going to make community college students be more successful and more confident as they go along their journey. The first thing is that students understand who the specific person or group of people are that they can go to get help. And the second is that they have a really clear plan from start to finish. And that's whether you're taking a 4-week certification course, or if you're coming here for a semester, a year, or 2 years to transfer to a university. Having someone who can help you develop that plan is going to be ultimately make you more successful. So we took those two values, and that's how we sort of built out our care teams. The first thing we did is we created these teams around career ladders or career fields, so that students didn't have to guess who they were supposed to go to find out information, whether it was about engineering or culinary or cosmetology or whatever their ultimate career field was. They can go online to our webpage and find their career field that they're interested in, and our care teams can provide you all the assistance that you need to create your plan and understand what jobs are available after you graduate or where you might be able to transfer once you finish here at Wake Tech. So we developed those care teams with certain people in mind. We have advisors on every care team that can help a student from the moment they walk through the door to talk about their pathway and help them update that pathway along the way. We have success coaches from Mike's area on the care team. Every care team has a career coach who specializes in that career field, and they can help a student decide what they want to major in or help them build a resume to go out and get a job in the field, and everything in between. We also have some really good faculty members from each of the academic areas who help support us on the care teams, whether they're teaching our advisors more about advising in the career field or talking to them about jobs that are available later, or providing input or helping students out themselves. So we have a really robust sort of group that centers around students. And to Mike's theme about, some of these things already existed, we just made it a little bit easier for students. That was the idea behind the CARE team. We want to take the guesswork out. All you have to do is show up and we'll get you to the right person to help you out. And behind the scenes, I think what has really changed organizationally is we've built relationships with each other, with our staff and with faculty across campus. That really helps students on the front end not have to play guesswork when we have those good relationships with each other behind the scenes and we can do the work on behalf of the student.
One of the things I love about my role is watching amazing people, amazing teams exceed your wildest expectations. And I think both of you, your teams have done that. With the CARE teams, I know when we started this conversation as part of our strategic planning a few years ago, we kind of set a ambition that every advisor know their student, every student know their advisor. And it seems as if you've taken that and put that on steroids because it was the group here, is the Wake Tech folks who said, well, let's take it to a new place with teams. And that seems to, I could have never imagined that. How did you pull it off so quickly?
Well, we have good people and they were bought into what we were doing. So that made it a lot easier for us to form this design. But we just had to start saying, let's do it. Let's do this. And one of the things I want to mention that I think you're kind of alluding to is one of the major successes that we've had with this whole project from an advising standpoint is every student here at Wake Tech now has an assigned advisor. And that's very different, particularly with university transfer students. That's very different than years past. Those students had an office that they could go to, but not necessarily an individual person who would keep up with their progress. So every student across campus has a specific advisor. They can locate that person in self-service if they haven't heard from the person already through outreach. They also have a success coach assigned to them. So there are 2 people on campus who are designated to work with a specific group of students and keep up with them and do outreach at certain times of the semester. So I think that was really a pivotal moment where from our perspective as advisors, it clicked and we were really able to see this caseload and these relationships with students develop. And I think once we got over that, things just became a lot easier to set up and manage with our progress.
You mentioned being organized around career fields, and I think there are about 13 career fields. But most students, like myself, when I went into college knowing what I was going to do, and then after my first year, that wasn't what I was going to do. A lot of our students come in really sometimes not knowing what they want to do. So how does that work how does that work? Because we're organized around career fields, but a lot of students are exploring.
That's right. And by the way, I've been in this career 20 years and still trying to figure out what it is I want to do.
I hope you found it. I hope you found it because you're doing pretty good at this.
Well, thank you. It's intimidating to be a new college student and feel like you have to decide what it is that you want to do from day one. I think by developing these 13 career ladders or career fields, we've tried to ease that a little bit, and we've gone from hundreds of different choices and making people feel like
I think we had
have
like
to
over
choose.
250 degrees you could check on the application at one time.
That's right.
Accounting was our top major because it's, people like accounting, but it's also first on the list. So if you didn't want to go any farther.
Exactly. So we've narrowed that down and we've tried to make it such that a student can look at those 13 and by process of elimination at worst, be able to say, okay, I don't necessarily want to do engineering, but I might be interested in public services or I might be interested in business, whichever. And if we can narrow it down, we can really help you out. The other add-on that we have that we're starting to utilize is within each of those career fields, we have an explore option that new students can choose when they first come here to Wake Tech. And that gives the student a little bit of breathing room to take some general classes. We're not just going to set you free to take anything you want. It'll be designed for that particular career field. And you're going to get a lot of outreach from our staff if you indicate an Explore program. We're going to get you right with a career coach to do some career exploration and some assessment to sort of figure out what you want to do. You'll get follow-up from an advisor and that type of thing. So we're not going to leave you on an island trying to decide.
It's kind of a narrowing down.
Yeah, it helps you narrow down. That's right.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous. You touched on something that may be tough to explain because I don't know how I would explain it, but I think one of the big intangibles with all of this is filling in sometimes the spaces and the gaps. Wake Tech is so big, I mean, people cannot imagine the magnitude of Wake Tech. And a lot of times students fall through our cracks. And you talked about how the teams work together. So success coaches and advisors, care centers and care teams, program areas and careers. So can you describe a little bit about that intangibility of pulling together? Because that's the thing, we would be doing a disservice to do this interview, this podcast with just you, Davis, or Michael, because in many ways what makes it strong is the fact that these things happened at the same time, but you bring it together and your teams come together. So can you in some way articulate that, or if I talked around it too much already?
No. So essentially, I can take it from the care center perspective and how it can incorporate into the care teams. If we have a student that is falling through the cracks or needs that support, the care center will essentially wrap around that student, right? From wherever that entry point is. So say it's through our student support specialists where they're doing an intake. So they can pass that along and pull in the success coach to say, hey, the student could use some success planning or just goal setting. That coach will then tag in that advisor, just like, hey, where are they with their classes? Are they taking the right classes? Are they trying to self-advise? And so being able to share that information, but we're not sending the student over to advising. We're trying to keep that student right there and say, you know what? Davis is going to contact you to make sure that you're advised and you're ready for the semester or the next semester coming up. So we try to make sure that student, we're not sending them through the spin cycle.
Right.
We have them there. When we have them there, we can use our technology that we have on campus to communicate with each other, or have a virtual meeting with that student right there. So we really try our best to make sure that if a student, as soon as we have a student and we have their attention, we're calling all hands to really try to support that student and make sure that they're taken care of and that they have a plan.
I think you articulated very well how a big place like Wake Tech can become appropriately small, because too often, not intentionally, but just the way we have been, if a student needs something, we would say, well, you need to go to the office of, and all of a sudden it's like, was that Charlie Brown's teacher? Wah, 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 wah,
Right, yes.
and all of a sudden you don't hear it anymore. You've got a map and you're trying to wander around. And as you've said, we bring it to you. You don't have to find it, is essentially, I think, what you kind of articulated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of our foundation with the appreciative model of really just, while you're with us, we may ask a couple of questions to help us just pull back those layers to learn more about like what's going on and how we can best help, but also for us to be able to relay information to other areas, for us to get the appropriate information back to that student. So it's working, and it's pretty awesome how the communication is flowing with the teams.
Yeah.
And we have some really good success stories of students.
And I sense too there's been some, we've learned through the process. I'm just thinking about, you mentioned the Nest, which has been a core service for us in terms of our food pantries on each of our campuses, but it evolved to a different place that is, while we still have physical places, it's a much bigger, unique way of engaging now. Can you describe that just a little bit as an example of the kind of service that's...
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we want to make sure we do is to support the basic needs of students. All the research is out there that you support the basic needs of students, they're retained and they're successful. So with the Nest, it's not just, hey, here's some food, hope it, works out. We're trying to engage students with healthy food options. So when they shop online, they get essentially a value. Like they get coins that they can use. But what it does is it has students select healthy choices that they can spread out. But we're also asking how many people are in your household, because we don't want to just say like, okay, here's a couple of cans for you. If you have people in your household that you're also supporting, we want to make sure that they're taken care of as well. Because if you don't have to stress about that, right? You can focus on your school. And so we were able to adopt a way that students can shop online, and then they can, just as you would a fast food place, you want to place an order and you go pick it up. That's what we can do now on multiple campuses as well as locations. Students can still come in and physically shop, but we're also providing them like, okay, these are the healthy choices, and we're giving them different, essentially, like here's a recipe that you can use that can stretch. We're also able to, if we have students that are using it frequently, connecting them with additional resources, because what's causing the food insecurity? Yeah. That's what we want to know, right? So is that something we can tackle?
Yeah.
If we're not able to, is it something that we can lean on our community agencies to help?
And time out. Big plug for the Wake Tech Foundation. Shout out to everybody who supports Rally Fund and everything else through the foundation, because you're supporting these services which are badly needed to help students stay in school. Keep going.
Yeah. And then just as we mentioned with our online students, we don't want to forget them, right? If they're online, totally online, we can still support them. We're providing them with digital food gift cards so that they're able to go out, shop, get those food items that they need. Yeah. We're also giving them, with the food cards, we're giving them, hey, this is sort of a list that you can get based off of the value that you can support yourself and your family with.
But one thing I hear you saying too, and this may be where it too starts to overlap really a lot with care team advising, is you're not just providing support, you're also nudging students towards successful decisions. I mean, you mentioned the money management program at Wake Tech, which has always been a fundamental thing for us, but we're trying to help our students get to the place where they may not be as dependent on a care center as they would in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, and it goes back to sort of the care team model. If we have you, in the care center web, right, we want to make sure that all of our services are taking a look at the situation, right? What can we do? What can we put into place so that you're successful? Removing as many of the roadblocks. So all you have to do is focus on your academics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's put the challenge on Davis to bring it home. Tell us. So we've kind of talked about this, how it all comes together. Share with us your perspective on it coming together and where you see it going next.
Sure. I always use the swimming pool analogy for students. I want you to be able to go to the swimming pool and not have to point out an individual to help you if you get in trouble in the pool. You can just say help and we'll be there to help you out. Where we're going, and this may be insider baseball, but we want to get everyone around campus who touches students more confident in all of the great resources that Wake Tech has. And you mentioned the foundation. We've talked about the care centers. We've talked about advising, career services, really great faculty on campus. Everyone has something great to offer and they care, otherwise they wouldn't be here working at Wake Tech. But it's a huge place and sometimes people don't feel confident in what the other person does. I think that can spill over into your confidence in helping a student. And so our next step is to really get all of the stakeholders involved with having these conversations about what's available to students and get people more confident in that. Not only that, but have actual conversations about students, because we're crossing paths with each other. I've worked with a student in advising that Mike has dealt with, and vice versa, and I see faculty across campus who I have newfound relationships with, and I can say, hey, how's so-and-so doing in your class? Is there anything I can do to help out? So I think that's where we really want to go, is really flourish those relationships around campus.
And, as we wrap up too, maybe we should, you noted it, it's the culture of care this here, because we've been talking about strategies of how we're doing things, but it was once said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And there is a true culture of care, and the people of Wake Tech, they rally around our students. They care, and at the end of the day, if we help them strategically form the connections, when they do that, it seems like magic happens just because of the spirit of who they are.
Absolutely, and this is our third semester kind of with this care team build out, and we've already I've seen instances across campus where a faculty member, we had a conversation with that person last year about a specific situation, and now they're able to handle that situation in a different way, more confidently on their own without themselves trying to figure out. Right, and vice versa. So we're getting there. It's, we're still building this out. We're still hearing from students about what they want, what's working, what's not. And we'll get there, but I'm excited just that a student, like I said, whether they're walking through the door or it's their second year here at Wake Tech, they have a group of folks who really cares about them that they can talk to if they have a problem, or even if they don't.
Well, I'm excited too, because, sometimes you can physically see things. We can drive by that new Eastern location in Wendell and see things go up. You don't really drive by care and see it. But I'll tell you, there's nothing that excites me more than the work that's taking place here around the care teams and the care centers, and just being able to step back and watch that. So thank you to both of you great leaders, the architects of care here at Wake Tech, and all the people who bring care to our students. It really is a phenomenal thing to witness. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for your leadership at Wake Tech. And thanks to all those who joined us today on this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast.
From the state-of-the-art Hendricks Center for Automotive Excellence on our Scott Northern Wake campus, I'm Joshua McKinney with your news update. We're off to the races at Wake Tech with the largest fall enrollment in college history. The college welcomed more than 24,000 degree-seeking students on August 14th. More than 7,700 of those students are new to Wake Tech, including 3,700 students participating in Wake Tech's Career and College Promise. There's still time to enroll for fall and attend a 12 or 8-week session. Visit apply.waketech.edu to get started. Wake Tech President Dr. Scott Rawls greeted students during the first week of classes by handing out donuts. He also surprised 10 students with $250 scholarships from the Wake Tech Foundation to help pay for books for the spring 2024 semester. These scholarships, called Golden Tickets, were handed out with chocolate bars made from scratch by students in the Baking and Pastry Arts program. During the first week of classes, faculty, staff, and students were on hand to welcome students, answer their questions, and help them navigate buildings and find classrooms. Wake Tech hosted Welcome Week activities on each campus for students during the first week of classes. The events included resource fairs, food truck rodeos, and appearances by the college's mascot, Talon. Wake Tech is pleased to announce Elvin James as the new Associate Dean of Outreach. James will provide strategic direction, support, and supervision for the recruitment and enrollment of new Wake Tech students. He will oversee the recruitment and outreach team and Wake Tech's Career and College Promise program for dual enrollment for high school students. 3 members of Wake Tech's Board of Trustees have been reappointed to 4-year terms. Dr. Esther Delaney, Sheila Ogle, and John Boswell. Wake Tech is served by 12 trustees, and the board establishes policy for the college, approves the annual budget, and serves as advocates for the college and its services. 5 2023 Wake County High School graduates are training to become skilled automotive technicians, thanks to scholarships from the Advanced Auto Parts Foundation. Mila Horton, Carson Alman, Leonardo Cardoso, Amy Cornea Vasquez, and Daniel Fobert received $5,000 scholarships and a one-time stipend of $600 for tools to complete their studies. The 5 are studying automotive systems technology or collision repair and refinishing, both offered right here at the Hendricks Center for Automotive Excellence. Wake Tech welcomed nearly 300 students and their families to the college's first Workforce Continuing Education Open House in Spanish. Students learned about non-degree education and training programs at the event, which was hosted at the Beltline Education Center. Additional participants tuned in virtually on Microsoft Teams. Wake Tech student athletes are back in action. Court volleyball, women's soccer, and men's soccer are kicking off a highly anticipated fall sports campaign. For season schedules, game times, and more, visit waketechsports.com. And as we head towards the checkered flag, you can find the latest headlines, news, and more by visiting news.waketech.edu. And that's your Wake Tech News Update.
Hi, my name's Kobe Joyner. I'm the Department Head of Network and Computer Technologies here at Wake Tech Community College. One thing that we want to make sure that we're very mindful of is how we navigate the internet, especially our inboxes concerning our emails. We want to make sure we don't click on any links that are embedded into any messages that we receive, and we certainly don't want to download any executable files that have been sent to us. A second best practice is to make sure that we use very strong and complex passwords. Our passwords should be between 12 and 14 characters in length, and we want to use a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols, preferably a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters. Thirdly, we want to make sure that we have backups of our data. We know that ransomware is certainly a very big concern in our society these days, so we want to make sure we back up our data. And then last but not least, we want to make sure that our software and our internet browsers are updated with the latest versions. A lot of those updates come with software patches and fixes to make sure that these applications are safe for us to use on a daily basis. I hope these tips and best practices are helpful and will increase your internet safety browsing. We certainly look forward to working with you here at Wake Tech. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of Wake Tech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about Wake Tech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.